Hello, I'm Joe Welinske, Program Manager for ConveyUX, coming up in Seattle for the 5th annual year, February 28, March 1, and March 2, and I have a lot of fun speaking with the speakers who will be at the conference, and today I get a chance to talk with one of my colleagues at BlinkUX, Byron Baker. Hello, Byron. How are you doing today?
Hey there, Joe. I'm doing great.
Oh, we're actually both in the same space. It's good to have you here for this interview, but I thought we could start by letting you introduce yourself to people, describe a little bit about your background and the nature of the work that you do at Blink.
Sure thing. So I'm Byron Baker. I'm UX Director here at Blink. I've spent the last 10, 15 years doing design consulting, and very specific to that inside of the enterprise. It's not something I necessarily sought out. It's more of just where my career and things led me. I've been working on enterprise applications for my entire career, with the exception of maybe a couple of years here and there. And I think it's a pretty exciting space to work in. It's nothing that I get to share a lot. Most of the work that I do is behind corporate firewalls and highly secure and confidential and things like that. So there's really nothing to phone home to mom about, but I get pretty excited about the idea that I'm helping people, do their jobs better and living inside these applications all day. So I'm pretty excited to be talking to ConveyUX and giving this talk.
Well, you mentioned that, well, like a lot of us today, a lot of the specific things that we're involved with we can't always talk about, but maybe you could chat a little bit about some of the general areas that you've found yourself exploring in terms of new design ideas, philosophies, ways to present information. Maybe just talk about some of the the innovative areas that you've been working over the past year or so.
Sure. I think when we start talking about, the difference between enterprise and consumer-based design and solutions, the process or many of the outputs and deliverables are very similar. We're solving problems. We're trying to understand what those problems are. We're talking to users, be them consumers or employees. I think where it starts to become different is really around the business problem itself, or about the business. In the case of consumer-based design and work, we're trying to get people in and using our application, like say for a restaurant review app or for Yelp, right? They're trying to get people in. It's all search-based. They want them in really quick and then typically out. And it's about how often they can touch the app for 30 seconds or a minute at a time. In enterprise applications, we're really trying to define, more longevity, about being in an app for a period of time. The business goals of that are different. They're talking about how do we save money? How do we retain employees through better tools and systems? How does the design integrate with legacy systems, or a database that was built 10 years ago that isn't scheduled to be updated for another 5 years. So how do we design for all of this? And it becomes very complex. And one of the things that I've been really focusing on this past year is about understanding, empathy for users, of course, but also understanding their journey end to end. And that's a really important piece, because inside of any company, the various teams, the various product teams, the business, the executives, the developers, if you ask them what somebody's doing or how they're using the tool, they'll all know their one little piece. They say, oh, well, Johnny's doing X, and they're doing this process. But what very few know is what the entire process looks like. Where do they come from? What are the problems that those employees are trying to solve? How often or how long are they in the application? It's one thing to look at a tool and say, oh, that's fine. I was in it for 20 minutes, and it's cool. It's easy to use. But for those that have to be in that same application all day, they're working 8 hours a day inside that application, it's a different problem to solve. It's maybe not as shiny, not as exciting, but it's about how do we make their job easier? How do we solve for the little things, that of course delight them along the way. But really the delight is in not being frustrated with the tool that I'm using, and in it doing the best job possible for me, to get my job done.
Well, I think we can all relate to that ideal idea of being engaged and delighted by applications that we're using on a day-in, day-out basis for potentially months and years. And the topic that you're going to be presenting on is within our enterprise interest area stream.
Yeah.
So we have several sessions specifically dedicated to this idea about what's the same, what's different, what can we do to make enterprise UX really work. And your session is entitled Enterprise UX Correspondence from the Front Line. So
Yeah.
Maybe talk a little bit about what people can expect to learn from your session.
Sure. You know, over the years, I've seen many a talk or many a paper or many a blog post about what is enterprise UX, and you got to do these 5 things, and here's this process, or things like that. And I think what I'd like to do in this session is kind of talk about how those change and morph from project to project, and explain that, yeah, there's this given process, but it's pretty malleable, and it can change and flex based on the problem, based on who you're working with. And being in the consulting world, you know, our process changes with every client. We kind of have our golden zone where we say this is the best way to go about doing a project, but it changes every single time, every interaction, and those changes are good. And I think it's really important to understand that every project's not the same. And that could go even, say, for an internal enterprise team, that every single project that they work on is going to be different. Even if it includes the same people, the problem's going to be different. So how do you take this set of deliverables or activities that are pretty well known and well founded inside of, you know, a user-centered design process, and apply those, you know, flexibly in various situations? And so I want to be able to tell that story through, I guess, what will be case studies over the past several years of different situations that required, you know, different tweaks to the process and maybe more focus in one area or another. And it all kind of comes back to that end goal of creating a better experience for our employees, and of course a more optimal situation for the company itself.
Well, thanks for taking a few minutes to share your thoughts about this, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the conference floor a few blocks away as we get there in about 6 weeks from today. Thanks.
Sounds great. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.